Hi there. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. I'm so happy to be here because I have someone who is an amazing professional and leader. But it's also someone that's very dear to my heart because she's like a daughter to me. And I'm so proud of her, especially that she can be on this podcast as one of the extraordinary women that we interview here. Now, please remember to like and comment also. You can comment with a statement, a question. We are pre-recording this video today, but we'll get back to you if you have any questions or comments. Most definitely at some point. Give us 24 to 48 hours after the video is posted. And share it with someone, with everyone, because who knows who will benefit from this very important topic we're going to speak about today. And hi, and welcome to Extraordinary Women of Guts and Grace, a podcast of women, of compassionate, courageous, and leadership. And EWOG, which is what it is, Extraordinary Women of Guts and Grace, is a platform to honor, highlight, and celebrate the contributions and innovations of women leaders in different industries. My intention is to inspire other women to step up, step out, and speak out into their power and become leaders in whatever manner they prefer to. Because you can be a leader for your life first, which is where it should begin, your home, your community, and it spreads out to the world, just like this special guest is about to do now in the next few weeks. Now, another intention that I have is to inspire the next generation of leaders. We want to reach out to youth and also to young adults to stir up that fire and get that flame going, to get involved and to do what's needed to make the best of their own lives, of course, first, and their communities as well. Hi there, I'm Evelyn Cosme, and I'm the CEO of Evelyn Cosme International. And I'm a life leadership and empowerment strategist and coach. And I am passionate about activating the leader within with high achieving women, professionals, entrepreneurs, philanthropic leaders, and spiritual leaders as well. And my goal working with them is to help them to improve the quality of their lives. I don't know if you've noticed that we women, especially in business or in our careers at the corporate level, in government, wherever we may be, we are Wonder Women because we're so multi passionate. We want to do so many things. But guess what? Our lives can break down too, just like anyone else's. But we don't want to show vulnerability. We don't want to have to address some of the things that can keep us up at night. And that's where I come in with a method, a very successful strategy to help women improve their quality of life, to impact their work as well. It's called The Power of V, and I'll be talking more about that in other platforms. Right now, I want to introduce you to this amazing young woman, Yetzenia Negron, the president of Stand Up Survivor and community activist. Our topic for today is very special and very important. It's mobilizing the global community for social impact. Hello, Yesenia. Thank you so much for being here. Please greet our audience before I share your bio.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're all having a great day. It's an honor for me to be here today. And thank you, Evelyn, for inviting me on board to share my story.
Oh, and it's a beautiful story of great inspiration. And you've just done so many wonderful things with your life. And I'm so proud of you, like I mentioned at the beginning, and so honored to know you. And I celebrate you, woohoo, for all these wonderful things, Yetzenia. Now, let's talk about Yetzenia. Yetzenia is a federal grant administrator for our Orange County Housing and Community Development Division. Ms. Negron oversees all aspects of the Community Development Block Grant and the Emergency Solutions Grant as well, which aids all our local community in addressing social issues related to housing, homelessness, and public services. Additionally, Ms. Negron serves as the board president for Stand Up Survivor, Inc., a 501c3 nonprofit organization based in Orlando, and dedicated to educating, equipping, and empowering domestic violence survivors and their communities globally. She always thinks big, and this is what I love about her. Furthermore, Ms. Negron serves as president of the Hispanic Heritage Committee of Greater Orange County, a task that is not easy and could be very overwhelming, but she makes it look like a piece of cake. Trust me, I've been around her and I know what she's capable of. Ms. Negron is currently pursuing a Master's of Public Administration at the University of Central Florida. And there's so much more to say, but we'll surprise you during our conversation. So, Yetzenia, are you ready for that first question?
Yes, see.
Yetzenia, you know, I've worked with children a large part of my career, and I am always interested in seeing how childhood impacts their adolescence, their young adult life, and of course, their adult lives. In your case, what did you do when you were a little girl? How did little Yetzenia play? And did it transfer into her current lifestyle and your mission?
Yeah. So a little bit about my childhood. I grew up in a single parent household. My mom was a single mom. She had 9 kids. We lived in poverty. So we played a lot with one another. My siblings and I will make up games, a lot of outdoors types of activities. We would do a lot of competitions, build tree houses. We would go hiking in the woods. We didn't have a whole lot of toys. We had what we needed, the basic essentials. And, we didn't have all of these smart gadgets. I think my mom bought us a Nintendo, and that was like a big sacrifice that she had to make just to get us a Nintendo. So our life was mainly outside. And yes, it has translated into my adulthood, because now I love to hike. I love to connect with nature. To me, it's like, the way that I function, my mental health, my self-care. I love to run. And that's one of the things that we did growing up. We would race a lot, and we were raised outside barefooted. We would win competition, turkey competitions, during Thanksgiving to bring home a turkey. So
you have a story about that. Why don't you share that story with the audience? I think it's a wonderful story of inspiration. Absolutely. A very endearing story as well.
Yeah. So, as part of one of our initiatives that we're doing with Stand Up Survivor is a virtual global 5K. And I was asked in a previous interview, kind of like, how did that start? Or I got a little emotional thinking about the global impact that this 5K is having, and how much support is receiving from across the globe. And I couldn't help but to think about my childhood, right? Like, when did I start running? And I started racing when I was a kid. I was a little girl in el barrio in Puerto Rico. Era la carrera del pavo, la carrera del maratón del pavo, the turkey race. Y yo me recuerdo que, mom told me, we need a turkey. We lived in a soda factory. We were really poor. We didn't even have a car. And she told myself and my siblings, she said, tenemos que ganar. We need to win. Vamos a ganar. We need to win. We need to win this turkey. Todos quítesen los zapatos, quítesen los zapatos, quítesen la chancleta, because we had chancletas. We didn't have sneakers, you know. We couldn't afford no Nikes or anything like that. So mommy took all of our shoes off and she said, van a correr, you're going to run in the concrete and van a correr rápido y ustedes van a ganar. And we did. Like, you know, imagine a mom with like 8 kids and 9, and then they're all running a turkey.
Oh my goodness. What number child are you, by the way?
Yo soy número 6. I'm number 6.
You're number 6. Okay, good. Wow.
Y ganamos, Evelyn, ganamos. Nos llevamos 5 pavos. We took 5 turkeys home, 2 pollos. Todo el barrio estaba enfogonado. Everybody was mad. I gifted one of my turkeys away to one of my neighbors who ended up saving my life. And ever since then, mi mamá nos puso in track and field. That was our toys, you know, being in sports. We were in track and field. She would take us to competitions all over. She would be the one in the sidelines screaming for us and cheering us on and traveling all over the place with us. And yeah, and now it translated into my adulthood. Now it's like, now we're, you know, I love to run. Evelyn, that's what's helping me, you know, with staying insane, especially during this pandemic. Everyone's going crazy. You know?
Absolutely. I hear you. And what I wanted to say is I think that's a marvelous story about how you all came together to win that turkey, you know. That's just absolutely amazing. And I think it speaks a lot for how families, doesn't matter where you come from, when you work united, you make things happen, you support each other, encourage each other, and root for each other. And I know your mom's so proud of you and all of your achievements, and she has a reason to be, definitely, but she's been in your corner rooting you on all of your life, and I'm so glad for that. Now, with how does your childhood and your adolescence add up until this moment? What was your childhood like and your adolescence, which are such crucial aspects in growing up, especially coming from a socioeconomic level that you were in, that you mentioned you lived in poverty, and you know, there was no food a lot of the time, or very little food. There was 8, 9 of you all together, and that's a large family group to live in poverty that way. So share a little bit about that story, because I think your story is so inspirational, because I want young people and young adults and everyone to realize, doesn't matter where you're at. It just, what matters is the impetus that you have, you know, the drive that you have to move forward and to achieve your dreams and goals. And you are the result of that, definitely.
Gracias, Evelyn. You know, I have to say that my childhood had different aspects to it. It had those beautiful, happy moments, beautiful memories. And then it had those moments of like fear and trauma and danger and darkness to it, you know. We lived in poverty, and my mom made the best from our childhood, the best that she could. But the reality was, my mom was addicted to drugs, and she was an alcoholic. You know, she was fighting a lot of personal demons, and it wasn't easy, because at the same time we were living in a domestic violence situation. You know, she had to endure a lot of childhood abuse herself. And so, you know, while she's battling all of these, you know, issues, all this trauma, she was trying to do the best as a mother. And she always said, you know, we never went without food. We always had a roof over our heads. We, you know, not always, there were times that we were homeless in shelters, you know, and times that she didn't know where we were going to sleep, and that an angel will come out of nowhere, a person that she didn't even know, and bless her with the keys of a home that was, you know, empty and in a barrio that we can actually sleep in. And so we depended a lot on, you know, the government, and mostly in God, you know. cannot leave my faith out of this equation. I cannot tell my story without saying, how powerful it is to have faith and believing in God, because it is those times in fear, it is those times in las tinieblas, de que you have to seek a higher power.
In the dark,
and my
yes,
mom
absolutely.
always that person. My mom was a person that, you would hear her praying, despite the fact that she will probably be drugged up or drunk. It was always a centerpiece. And so my grandmother was a big part of my childhood. My grandmother, she was always around. She always tried to do her best. And, she married a man that he was very abusive, sexually abusive with us, with my siblings and myself. But he was a faith leader, right? He was this faith leader in the community. He was a pastor. He was a person that, he would preach and he would host these big Bible studies at his house with the leaders of the church. And he would go to these big, asambleas and preach and stuff. But what people didn't know was that when it was early morning time, or nighttime or whatever, he would sexually abuse me. He would sexually abuse my siblings, and threaten us, with a shotgun, and threaten us, if we said anything, that he will kill me and my whole family. And so that was my childhood. My childhood was beautiful, and it was also fearful. It was also moments of that as children, we had to, save the life of my mom from being killed from my dad, and so it had its up and down moments. And so all my childhood trauma didn't hit me until my early teens, right? Because this is where running comes into place. My mom always had us busy. No matter what happened, she always made sure we went to school. She always made sure we were responsible and active in the community, even in church, And so she put me in track and field. And my childhood dream was to become an Olympic gold medalist.
Oh, wow.
I wanted Olympic gold medalist. And I remember I used to pray and I used to tell God, this is what I want. I want to become a track and field Olympic gold medalist. And I was doing great. I was winning competitions. We moved from Puerto Rico to Pennsylvania and training. My mom would take me to training. We would travel throughout the whole entire state. And I was really fast, the fastest in my city. I made it all the way to states, and then la bomba explotó.
The bomb exploded. What happened?
Explotó. Explotó, and my whole life just shifted, because that's when I found out that my step grandfather was raping my 8-year-old sister.
Oh my goodness.
And then so, it was a whole entire, investigation. We had to go get forensic exams done, detectives interviewing us, social workers in our homes, that aspect of family members believing you and other family members not believing you. And then the church backing up the abuser, because how can you even believe that a man who preaches and does all this is actually sexually abusing children? And throughout the whole time, my mom was still battling her alcoholism and her substance abuse addictions. And so, my life just shifted, Evelyn. I stopped caring. I stopped caring about la vida. I stopped caring about la autoridad, the authority. I stopped, believing in myself. My whole world crumbled because I blamed myself. I blamed me. That shaming is real, and I thought it was my fault. I thought if I would have done more, if I would have spoke up more about it, if I would have, done something different, maybe my younger sister wouldn't have gotten raped. But there's so many different dynamics to it. There's a dynamic of the church, the role that the church played in it, and the misconception of scriptures. There's so much that goes into it. And so I blame myself, and my life just spiraled out of control. I went from winning track medals and being really good in school to now not caring about anything and running from the police, getting in trouble, fighting, using drugs, using alcohol, getting high just to go to school. Like, I just stopped. I stopped caring about studies. I stopped. I mean, it got to the point that if anyone would try to come up to me and tell me something, I would just curse them out. I didn't care if it was a teacher, if it was a law enforcement officer.
And for adolescents and any child, it's so difficult to believe that someone that should be trustworthy, an adult that should care and protect and keep safe, was the actual monster, was the actual abuser. And then having a position within the community as a pastor, that made it so much more difficult. And it's so understand. You and I have worked for years with the domestic abuse population and human trafficking and whatnot. So we understand the psychosocial aspects of it and how it impacts society. But when it comes to women, the fact that you experienced that as a child and early on, because you saw abuse, so you had the impact of trauma, just observing and then being part of it, being abused yourself and sexually. And despite all of what was going on, and your mom, she's remarkable that she tried to keep the family together, the kids going to school, active in extracurricular activities. It's for someone who's not involved in substances, and it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of work and dedication. And your mom still found that speck of light inside of her to do that. And I know that you have that too, but that is something that comes from a very special place, a very special source that is the only type of source that can really give us that resilience in order to bounce back, like you have, and your family and your mother. I've known her, she's amazing too. So go on with your story. It's very heartbreaking to some extent, but it has such a beautiful ending. And that's what I love mostly about it. It gives hope to so many people. Go ahead.
Yeah, it definitely does have a beautiful ending to it, and Evelyn, because sometimes we go through things in life, and at the moment we don't understand why certain things are happening, and we don't understand what, and I think that the part of understanding was one, when I started getting more involved as a domestic violence advocate, and understanding the dynamics of abuse, understanding that it wasn't my fault. I started getting more involved in church. Eventually we moved from Pennsylvania down here. My mom had to make the decision that either I take my children out of this city, or I am going to lose them, either to the streets, where I'm going to lose them, because it got to the point that I almost lost my life due to gang violence.
Oh wow.
I was assaulted, by a gang, and it was really tough. It was a really tough moment, and my mom had to make a decision. She said, dejo que mis hijos se pierdan, o saco a mi familia de aquí, o lo voy a perder. I'm going to lose them. And that's what she did. She moved us to Orlando, and in Orlando, I found a new breath of fresh air. I was young. I was about 17. And then it was like the reality hit me even more, because it's like, I'm in this new city. No one knows me. Ahora qué?
Now what? What are you going to do with that?
No sé, yo no conozco a nadie. I don't know anyone. It's my decision. Now it's my time. When I was a child, I couldn't decide for myself. A lot of things happened to me. But now I am 17 years old. What am I going to do in my life? Am I going to become another statistic? That's what I said to myself, Evelyn. I said, Yetzenia, are you going to become another statistic? Are you going to become another high school dropout? Because yo iba a dejar la escuela. I was going to leave high school. I was a junior in high school, and I didn't know fractions. I was great at reading and writing, because I used to have a lot of journals, and I used to read as an adolescent to like despejar la mente, that was like my coping mechanism. But math, I was horrible, and I was so behind academically, Evelyn, because remember, trauma does not let you focus. Y cuando you stop focusing, and you just stop caring about life. So I said to myself, do you want to be a high school dropout? Do you want to be incarcerated, as an adult? Do you want to be a drug addict? Do you want to be a teen mom? Do you want, or do you want to change your life? Do you want to break this cycle? And that's what I decided to do. I decided to give myself a new opportunity. I said, you have no excuse. If you mess up now, es por ti, no es por nadie. And I think as individuals, exactly, we need to get to that point in life, and we need to also say, okay, there's times where we have no choice, but then there's times that we do have authority over our decisions. And that's when I started, getting mentoring in school. I met an amazing teacher, Mr. Strawback, who me ayudó tanto, Evelyn. Él literalmente me enseñó a mí how to work a USB drive. I didn't even know what a USB drive was.
I didn't know years ago either.
Yeah. Well, how to work an email. I'm like, un email, ¿qué es eso? Un email. Y él tan calmadamente, ese maestro me ayudó. He just helped me, explicándome todo. I started excelling academically. I started winning awards in Ocoee High School. And then one day he asked me, Yetzenia, why do you always submit your work in paper rather than online? And I told him, I was like, Mr. Strawback, I don't know how to work a computer. That's when he started helping me. And then I also told him, I have to go to the public library and wait almost 2 hours for a computer to become available. And me dijo, de verdad? I'm like, yes. I lived in Pine Hills at the time. And he said, okay, vamos a escribir el email a Mr. Armbruster. Mr. Armbruster at the time was the principal of the high school. And I was like, oh my God, he's going to write him an email and I'm not getting in trouble. I'm not getting expelled from school. I'm not, Y le escribió un email al principal. The principal answered back saying he wants to have a meeting with me. And Mr. Strawback told me, Yetzenia, el principal wants to have a meeting with me.
Oh, Lord. And mention the principal is mentioned like, oh my God, you're in trouble.
I was like, oh my God, but I was really excited, Evelyn, because it was the first time I was actually going to meet with a principal and I wasn't getting expelled from school or detained or, suspended. So I remember I got dressed up real cute, the cutest that I could get at the time. And I met with the principal and he said, Yetzenia, I hear that you're doing really good in school. And I hear that you want to go to college. And remember, Evelyn, the concept of college to me was foreign. I was just trying not to drop out of high school, And when he tells me that, I'm like, yeah, I do want to go to college. And he said, and then he tells me, and we want to help you. And I have a friend who is an anonymous. He wants to remain anonymous. That person wants to remain anonymous. I still don't know who that person is to this day.
Oh, wow.
But this person also wants to help you too, Yetzenia, because they also believe in you. He puts a black trash bag onto the conference room table. And when I open it, it's a brand new laptop, a brand new printer. I started crying. I was bawling. I was crying. I was hugging them because other than my mom, for the first time, someone else believed in me.
And cared about you.
So, yes. And they showed it and I know my family loves me. They care about me, but to have someone to look deep and say, you want to get there, I'm going to help you get there and give you the resources to get there. Eso es otro ballgame. That's a whole different story. And yeah. And then, I began getting more involved in the community. I began, I started changing my life, started mentoring youth. That's when I met you as well. And we worked with a local domestic violence agency. Mm-hmm. You also mentored me. I remember I would sit in your office and you would siempre me daba mucho consejo about the importance of marketing yourself, mm-hmm. of, establishing a network, of establishing an image, of,
you remember all of that.
Of course. Yeah, yo me recuerdo. You will always tell me, after de tu carrera, get your career going. Don't rely on this job to make your connections. because this job is not always going to be here. You need to get yourself known. And, and you will always give me that positive encouragement. You and all the ladies that were around me that I still have great relationship with. Y así seguía. I remember I didn't even have my bachelor's degree. I had my associates, and you told me, get your bachelor's. Where are you getting your bachelor's? And then that's when I went for sociology. And
we all saw so much in you, and the possibility. We just couldn't stand still and not say something about it, because you had to achieve this. And look at you now, but you did it. It was in you. You were able to. You just had to believe in yourself. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And that's the key, Evelyn. It's about believing in yourself. I know you always highlight an extraordinary woman with guts and grace, right? But it's like, in order for us to become that extraordinary woman with guts and grace, we need to believe in our potential. Mm-hmm. And it takes random people in our lives to also see that and continue to hammer that into us, because with so many things that happen in our lives, our self-esteem becomes affected. Mm-hmm. Our the way we think of ourselves, we become to have a lot of self-doubt on our potential. And so in order to become that extraordinary woman with guts and grace that's there, she's just hiding, because the Yetzenia that I am now, it has always been here. I've always been outgoing. I've always been about the community, because eso es lo que mi mamá me inculcaba desde mi niñez.
Yeah, your mother was such a pivotal piece in all of this. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
So I think it's been really made clear the trajectory you've had, and what drew you to work in domestic abuse. And what was there a moment that you said to yourself, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to work with? What's the reasoning behind it, besides, of course, that you lived a life the way that you did, exposed to it?
There was a moment. It was a moment of prayer. I was going to church at the time, and, I was receiving a mentorship through a pilot program for team leaders. And, I wanted to do more in my life. And I knew that there was a lot of hurt that was holding me back. And I remember one night, I started praying. I started orando, and I started, doing fasting. And I started, praying in my room. I closed myself, and I started crying. I started telling God, help me heal. Quítame todas estas raíces de amargura that I have within me. Help me forgive the people that have hurt me. I had to forgive the man who abused me. I had to forgive, my grandmother too, because, there was a time that she sided with him until the end, and there was a point that, she knew, and I had to forgive her, because then I realized she was being abused herself,
and I had to generational. It was generational. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And then I also had to forgive my father. I forgave my father for never being there for me. And through that prayer that night, I remember I was crying and just asking God to help me heal, in order for me to move forward in life, in order for me to receive la bendición, the blessings, and for me to do good to others, and for me to live in my ultimate potential. You have to let go of the bitterness, of the hurt, and forgive yourself first, and then forgive the person that hurt you, and leave that in the hands of God, and that's why, when I give my testimony, it's never complete unless God is in it, because this is my living testimony.
Right.
And then I remembered I cried myself to sleep that night, and I did tell God, I said, God, I want to work with women and children and people that have been abused. Help me, Lord, help me. Y nena, y eso fue como que después de ahí empecé a conocer a las personas que están that are in the field, and I started getting mentorship. I started volunteering. Las puertas se me abrieron de una manera increíble.
So, all the doors started opening because you voiced your desire. You asked for it. And I think that's really an important part of getting what you need and want and desire in life. And it's to verbalize it, because the word is so powerful, and how we request it is so important as well. Now, when all of this happens, that's the pivotal moment for you. And that's when you start connecting with domestic abuse. Once working in a domestic abuse, many people who work in domestic abuse shelters and services, etc., have experienced in some way or fashion abuse, whether they witnessed it or experienced it directly. And I have to add here, and I want to say for the sake of the audience, because I work so directly with the children and families of domestic abuse, please remember that when a parent is abused, the child feels as if it's happening directly to them, especially if it's the mother. They can't separate that it happened to mommy. It's almost as if they experienced it. Their cellular memory brings it up, and they get triggered about it constantly as well. So it's a trauma that lasts lifelong. And if it's not addressed or processed or worked either with clergy, a therapist, a coach, someone, that trauma keeps gnawing inside, and it affects, and this is the next question, personal relationships, how you connect with others, particularly romantic relationships, because what you've seen is a lot of pain, a lot of abuse, a lot of, you can't trust a man particularly, or a woman for that matter. It doesn't matter the gender of the abuser. Abuse is abuse. So how did that affect your life with your relationships, in engaging with others, if at all?
I'm very alert, Evelyn, with the friends that I choose in my life, the way that, we speak to each other, the way that we treat one another, even in, intimate relationships, because of my experience and because of the education that I've gained as a domestic violence advocate. Now I know what healthy looks like and what healthy doesn't look like, and what I'm going to tolerate, not tolerate. So it helps me decipher things a lot better. It definitely does. And because of that, I've been able to establish really good relationships with friends. Like, I consider to have a really healthy social circle. I'm a dancer. I have my dance teammates, my salsa teammates.
Talk about that.
Yeah. At work, and then living a healthy lifestyle too, and then learning to how to cope with the things that have happened to me in the past, because I did have to go to therapy. My mom definitely put us in therapy. And then also, rather than using alcohol or substance abuse as a coping mechanism, now I'm using running, I'm using hiking, I'm, bicycling, I'm dance, I'm doing all of this different things, traveling as well. And so the people that are in my life, they have to have the same drive as well. And then it helps me to see, those who are actually hurting, who are there where I used to be. And then it helps me, por lo menos orientarlo. Hey, everything's going to be okay. Like the other day I met a lady that by me just inviting her to this global 5K triggered her trauma. Just by me saying, hey, I'm putting together this, race. And then I said the name of the race, and there's a specific word that triggers her trauma. And she holds me, she grasps my hand, and she tells me, I've heard you talk about this before. And I just want to let you know that I had to leave the place because it triggered my trauma, and I cried. And then I can't hear that specific word because it triggers me again. And I said, thank you so much for letting me know. I want to let you know that you're going to be okay. That I'm a survivor as well. And I want to let you know that you're going to get past this. You're going to be hurting. You're going to feel at times like the world is just caving in. But tú vas a estar bien. Y tú vas a estar bien, and you're going to join me on this 5K, girl. So I'm still, it's signed up. it helps me emphasize with people.
Absolutely, definitely. And I think you've worked so much through your trauma and passed through it. You've let go of so many things, which is key, like you mentioned. And there's different ways to go about it. And that's why I always encourage anyone who's listening today, if you are being triggered, there are places where you can reach out and get the help that you want. And I'll be posting below in the comments different organizations for that purpose as well. Now, with all this experience, personal and professional, that you've gained, what is the primary goal of your organization, of the Stand Up Survivor?
Right. So, our mission is to reach all of our survivors on a global platform. We are in the life-saving business.
Great.
And we do this by educating, providing awareness, providing healing retreats. We have, we do lethality assessment, safety planning. We have partnerships with our legal partners in the community and law enforcement to provide different support for survivors. We've helped survivors with relocation. Our advocates literally drive survivors across state lines if they have to. I mean, these are individuals that are 100% dedicated to this cause because they're survivors themselves. I'm the president of this organization, but the founder and the CEO of this organization, Lisa Alexander, she's a survivor. So this is survivor founded and survivor driven.
Yes.
Because many of us have life experiences, we understand how important it is to give back to the community, to give people the freedom and the space that they can actually thrive in. And so, Stand Up Survivor, it's a 501c3 nonprofit organization based here in Orlando, Florida, but we have a global impact. And how is it that we have a global impact is really interesting. We have a large social media following, Evelyn. We reach over 1 million people.
Oh my goodness.
Over 1 million a month. We have over 100,000 followers on social media. And people donate from all over the world. We have followers and global ambassadors, because that's another program that we have, is a global ambassadors program where we have people all over the world that sign up for our global ambassadors program. They have to interview, they have to apply for this, and their whole entire objective is to mobilize their local communities in providing education and getting them engaged into a lot of our activities and support groups. So, the global 5K that we have, for instance, that we have right now, that we'll talk about a little bit more coming up, this global 5K is being mobilized all over the world with our global ambassadors. We have people already signed up, and as I'm talking, I just got a message from Pennsylvania that they told me 8 people have already signed up.
Oh, wonderful.
I got a message, 8 people signed up from one of our ambassadors in Pennsylvania. And so we have people from California, UK, Ireland, Australia, France,
Exciting.
Huh?
That's so exciting. And I have a question just to interject. Are the global ambassadors, are you choosing them to be people who have experienced domestic abuse or not necessarily?
They either have life experience, but they need to be trained in domestic violence.
Of course.
Right?
Yes.
Have to receive training. They a lot of our global ambassadors are survivors themselves, and now they're professionals in the field, or they have just a big heart for this cause, and they want to do something because maybe they know someone that were abused or murdered. And so there is an application process and an interview, because you're representing Stand Up Survivor, you're representing our mission, our vision, globally. And so we don't want to limit ourselves on who can receive the services from us. If it's people living here in Orlando, we're helping people in Orlando every single day. If someone calls us from Jamaica, we're going to connect you to the services in Jamaica. We're going to help you. We assisted a person to safely exit their relationship that was living in Africa.
Oh, wow.
Africa. And so a lot of people, the first time that they even hear or see something like this is on social media. I had a lady that reached out to me and donated, and she said, I found this page and it gave me the courage to speak up about my situation. And then she started talking about the sexual abuse she endured from her father. And so, you know, we're giving people the space to talk, to gain information, to share it with individuals in a safe manner, because, you know, we do let all of our social media followers know, hey, this is, you know, Facebook is public. We have our private groups. We have our mental health groups as well. That you know, we have our groups. So be very careful, you know, on what it is that you post. Don't post anything if you're still in a relationship. So we do have those tutorials available, because, you know, that's really important.
And the training that we've had working as advocates for the state, we know how easy many abusers are able to tap into different platforms and to gain access to the survivors. So I'm glad that you're there as president, because you bring that to the plate. Now, the training that your ambassadors get, is it based on whatever, if they're in the United States, most states do have initiatives and probably have state training for state advocacy, or are they going through training with your organization? How is that happening right now?
They are going through trainings, and even if you go to our website, you will see what the criteria is about the stand-up survivor, you know, how, you know, the person benefits from being a global ambassador. For instance, you know, they have to be out of their abusive relationship for at least 2 years, and they can't any longer in danger. That's one of the requirements. You know, they have to have access to computer and internet connection. They have to be willing to complete our stand-up survivor ambassador training, which is a virtual training that we give them on the dynamics of abuse, you know, power and control. We talked, you know, to them about the legal components within their own respective communities. So, you know, they are also in charge of doing research and developing, you know, some of these criteria to be able to help the individuals in their community. They have to be over the age of 18. That's a requirement. You know, they have to be willing to attend bi-monthly virtual meetings as well. They had, you know, has had some type of, and this is really important, if they are survivors, one, they have to be out of that relationship for at least 2 years and be no longer in danger. This is really important. Has had some type or continues with ongoing therapy, counseling, group, modality, etc., and is able to manage possible triggers. This is really important because, as you know, there's that vicarious trauma component to it, where when we're helping people, we are also living that trauma, okay, because of that the secondary trauma, and we can also get triggered. So it has to be a person that already knows how to identify those triggers, handle it, and then seek the services that they need. And then they also need to be willing to share their stories with others. This is really important, and this is key. This is how you know as well that people have healed from their trauma, when they're able to speak about it, not cry, or, you know, and speak about it without shame, speak about it with boldness. Because we need, you know, we need to let other people know that there is a solution, there are options, that there is freedom, that they're going to get out of this relationship. Some of the responsibilities of our global mission ambassadors, they have to engage in your local community, and on social media with domestic violence awareness. They have to be prepared and ready to share their personal stories. They have to be willing and active in fundraising for Stand Up Survivor. And this is where this virtual global 5K takes place. They have to be prepared to speak at engagement, sharing domestic violence awareness and education. And as you know, Evelyn, This is, public speaking engagement is a big component of the work that we do. We have to be, knowledgeable and ready to train individuals. You know me, I've been able to train law enforcement officers. I've been able to go out there and train, healthcare professionals, doctors, nurses, our judicial system, such as judges and, attorneys, because domestic violence happen in a systematic way. There's so many different levels to it that we need to be well versed and educated in the whole entire topic of domestic abuse.
Absolutely.
They have to assist on the ground in your local community during stand up survivor healing retreats. If that's another thing that we have our healing retreats. We're having our 2 upcoming healing retreats. One is going to be in Utah. We just had one here in Orlando. We're having a retreat in Utah, and we're also having another healing retreat in Tennessee. And there's going to be a mountain hike component to it,
which you're going to love.
Yeah, I'm excited. I got extra excited about the Tennessee one. I'm really looking forward to that hike. And collaborate with Stand Up Survivor on its mission to eradicate domestic violence through utilizing your skills, education, experiences. And they are also dues for these ambassadors. Dues are monthly dues. There's a cap of like $100 annually, and they can pay like $10 a month. But the dues that are for the global mission ambassadors go straight to the organization to continue to help survivors. So this is like a rotating cycle of assistance, of support services.
Absolutely. And you studied sociology, so you understand social dynamics very well and how to get the community involved and engaged and in action, which is wonderful. Now, Yetzenia, share a little bit now about the work that you do with housing, which is also such an important issue in the community, especially the trends that are affecting housing right now amidst COVID. I won't say after COVID because we're still in the middle of it somehow, some way, and apparently it will last quite a bit longer than we expected. So how is this affecting housing in our community?
Well, before the pandemic, we had a housing crisis here in Central Florida. I'll say now, mainly in Central Florida. We didn't really have much affordable housing inventory in place. The public services that were available were limited as well. And so now with this global pandemic, we see that, the housing stock is less. It's horrible. Affordable housing stock as well. And the people that are mostly at risk are those low income individuals, those low income households. And so right now with housing, it's like, yes, we're providing a lot of federal funding to all of these nonprofit organizations to assist the program participants with, rapid rehousing, homeless prevention, emergency shelters. We're providing a lot of funding towards that as well. But we know that in order for this to be sustainable long-term, which the funding that we have is not going to be long-term funding. So right now, together policies and procedures that are going to be effective for all of our households that have been, impacted by this pandemic. They've lost their employment. The hospitality industry here in Central Florida and Florida in general has been hit. We are thankful that, we're one of the only states that are still up and running, because I think that if we would be completely shut down like other states, we will be in a really horrible situation. Yes. Even worse, because a lot of people flock to the South, and even now there's a lot of people coming from New York and other places. So, as local government, we're in the work that I do with local government, we're trying to do the best that we can. So many changes coming down the pipeline. My work has increased like 3 times. Like, I have so many federal contracts to oversee. The need is a lot, and we are moving the needle forward. And thankfully, we have a strong support system here in Central Florida with all of our community partners, with all of our nonprofit organizations, the private sector, and other, jurisdictions, governmental jurisdictions that have come together. So I will say that during this pandemic, we put like our thinking hats on, like, what are we, there's always, you know, the preparation part, you know, that government can always be more prepared. And I agree with that. And I think that, you know, a lot of people are realizing a lot, not just, you know, in the government, but in the private sector as well, on things that they can do different in the future if, you know, this was to ever occur again, which I really hope not. We don't need.
Well, I'm glad you're there helping with that because of your personal life, your experience. You know what homelessness is and the importance of having a roof over your head. And we don't have to be homeless. Everybody deserves to have a roof over their heads. And anything that the government can do, and I hope there will be more initiatives to meet the needs. But I understand that it can be overwhelming, the numbers with the influx of people that we're getting. It's huge. I interviewed someone from the government, from Mayor Jerry Deming's office just last week, and she was sharing that it's thousands of people coming in to Orlando on a daily basis. So can you imagine if not everyone is in a place to say that they've already gotten a job, or they perhaps they do come with a job. If not, where are they going to live if not with families? So families that are already here are also being impacted by family members that are arriving from wherever, from other states, from Puerto Rico, from other countries. It's a worldwide situation, I'm sure, because of the pandemic. But I know that you're always there with innovative ideas. You're vocal, and you're very instrumental in anything that can happen wherever you work at. And that's what makes you such a great leader. I do appreciate that about you.
Yeah.
And now, I think it's really important that we talk about movement. And you know how movement, and you mentioned it, and we were talking a little bit about it before we came on, about the importance for your wellness and your mental health movement. And for you, running has been amazing. It's an exercise, it gets you moving, your blood, your oxygen, and it helps you be youthful and to be able to move. But you, young lady, and you kind of like leaked it out at the beginning, you are an amazing salsa dancer, but you even go to competitions. You're serious about everything you do. You're very intense and passionate about everything, just as you are with advocacy and all the causes that you lead. You're the same with your dancing. Share a little bit about that with us, please.
Well, I do mainly performance, because competition is like a different category. It's very intense, and due to my busy schedule that I have, you know, I haven't been able to compete as of today, but I will be competing in the future. You know, with performance in general, I'm part of a dance academy that's called Salsa Synergy. Dance company is here in Orlando. I've been training with them for many years. An amazing, you know, academy to be a part of. I've been able to perform with them and grow as a dancer. And I will say that, you know, I learned to salsa dance as a child. You know, funny thing that said, Evelyn, what toys did you play with? And I'm like, no tanto juguete, pero we used to dance. My mom, she would, you know, she had like it was like her own academy. You know, one night she would teach us how to dance merengue, the other night bachata, the other night salsa, and she would teach us self-defense. She would teach us how to cook, you know. So salsa has always been a big part of my life because my grandfather, he's a salsa legend. Que descansa, you know, Piro Mantilla, el primer cantante del Apollo Sound. And, you know, he's a salsa legend. Before he was part of Apollo Sound, he sang, he very well known in Puerto Rico. You know, the biggest salsa legends know who my grandfather is. And so he had his own salsa band. And my mom, she's a big time salsera. She, you know, she plays the percussion, she sings, she acts, she does all this. So singing, acting, and has always been a part of our childhood. She always taught us all that. And y la salsa es lo que me ha mantenido a mí sane. Salsa is what has kept me sane, because in the moments that I feel sad, in the moments that I feel down, or in the moments I'm like, you know what, I'm going to go to the studio. I'm going to get my salsa shoes, go to the studio. I start dancing, escucho la música, y eso es una terapia, that's a therapy.
And music alone is quite therapeutic. And if you add to that movement, the dancing, it's all wrapped up in one wonderful exercise. Absolutely.
Self-esteem, Evelyn, I will say my self-esteem has improved, because when a person endures trauma, their self-esteem gets affected.
Of course.
I'm a diva. Bailo, me siento tan alegre.
That's wonderful. I've seen you dancing, so I know, and you posted sometimes on Facebook. But music does something, and combining that with movement is just extraordinary, I think, too. And the fact that it's a healing tool for you. It's something to process your energy, your any depression, any blues, any lows. That's it. It gets transformed in art that way. And the wonderful thing about salsa, it's so rhythmic, and you can freestyle it, or you could do the very ballroom salsa dancing, which is much more styled and whatnot. But it is such a fun way. And what I want to say about this to everyone listening, you can be a leader, you could be a housewives, and I always say this, are great CEOs. I mean, the extraordinary CEOs, a mom of a household with children, with everything she's got to do. But if you're a professional as well, a leader, an entrepreneur, make time for something that you love the way that Yetzenia does. If you have to put it on your calendar, it's part of your schedule, and deal with it as if you would with a client, that you would not break that appointment, or it's a corporate meeting that you cannot, you're going to meet with the board members. Think of it that way, because you deserve that time for yourself. It cannot all be about work. And we've all made that mistake at some point or another. We're working, especially when we're in the helping field, that we work and we want to save the world, But if we could just start with one person at a time in our families, in our communities, and so on and so forth, that makes a difference, believe me. But the most important person is you, yourself, because you cannot help anyone if you don't take care of yourself. And I love what they say in the airlines, if you have children, you put the mask on first and then put your child's mask on. And that, it says it all right there. We need to practice self-care, most definitely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Self-care is really important. And, when we become happy, when we become, free of the stress and all that, we're able to give back to our children. We're able to give back to our family so much better. Our marriages, everything is going to be just mejor todavía.
Yes.
I'm big on that. I'm big on, I see a lot of women that they're mommies and it's all about the kid. Nunca tienen. Like, I have one of my best friends, I tell her, you need a trip, girl. You need to go on vacation. You drop off the kids and schedule that time for you. And I like how you said it. You need to make time for you consciously, because that's healthy. And, she took her first vacation ever.
How wonderful. Must be liberating.
Yes, that's it. There's no turning back. Now she's like, planning her next vacation.
Like, you've been traveling a lot too, I've noticed, which is wonderful, because traveling is so enriching. It just, just the foods, the music, the people, the cultures that you can engage with are wonderful ways also to detox and disconnect from other things. We are coming to an end, but I still have some questions. We could talk forever and ever. There's so much to talk about. We could even talk more about domestic abuse and all of the layers, like Yetzenia said, that includes. But just to move on with some of the questions, How about right now with COVID? The other any initiatives that you work with, any causes that you're related to, how has that affected those initiatives, those programs or projects?
Well, Evelyn, I'm really, I'm heavily involved in the community, especially, mobilizing my community at large. Like here at work, I'm in charge of the whole entire volunteer program for our department.
Oh,
And
wow.
go out into the community to give back to these nonprofit organizations with volunteer hours and labor, Habitat for Humanity, Second Harvest Food Bank, you name it, we were there. With the COVID-19 pandemic, that has all come to a stop. Nonprofits are now looking for volunteers again, so now that things are opening back up. But their fundraising has been affected. The way that they have to engage their clients, has shifted drastically. Many people have gone virtually to providing services, and it's not always feasible at times, because we know that people don't always have access to internet or a computer, or these software systems that we're now using, these platforms. So that has been impacted. I will say that now fundraising is also a big part too, because a lot of nonprofits will do fundraising in person with galas and things like that, and now they got to get more strategic with things on how they're going to be engaging their donors and prospect donors as well.
And not everyone is working. Not everyone is working to donate the way they might have in the past as well. So,
and so, we're seeing a big need in the community. So this is kind of like where my part comes in. I'm like, okay, stand up survivor. We're in the life-saving business. We were helping survivors. We need to continue our fundraising efforts. We weren't able to hold our annual gala that brings in, private donations. And as you know, private donations are non-restrictive funds, which allows nonprofit organizations help more people, because typically, a lot of these nonprofits rely a lot on grants from the government. And those grants are very restrictive. There's for a specific program, you have to meet specific objectives and goals as well. So this virtual global 5K, the whole mission is let's mobilize each other. We're doing it in a virtual format. You can do it wherever you're at. You can bike it, run it, swim it, walk it.
wonderful.
There's people kayaking this virtual 5K. There's people that are going to be paddle boarding it. So that's really cool. And then it's a week long during the Mother's Day week, May 2nd through the 9th. So it's in honor of all the women in our lives. And you can do it at your own time. A person can do a mile today, they can do a mile tomorrow. That's fine, as long as they challenge themselves to do it. We're telling people, get your family together. You don't have to do this alone. Get your husband involved, your spouse, your mom, your children. We have a lot of mommies that are signing up their kids too, and they're going bicycling together. And so this is in commemoration of life, in commemoration of like, it's just all the beautiful things that we have. Despite all the craziness we've been going through, we've been blessed, right? We're blessed that we're alive. We're blessed that we have families with us. And all the proceeds that are collected are going to go straight to Stand Up Survivor, to assist survivors of abuse. As I mentioned before, we help people all around the world, and a lot of people here in Central Florida, we're recognized nonprofit. We have a great partnership. We're part of the Domestic Violence Commission that is spearheaded. Oh, yes. The mayor knows who we are. Our nonprofit, works with the public, administrators, law enforcement officers, everything. So we are a pillar in our community.
I know you are.
Global community.
Yeah. I love the way you said that. That you got to own it and celebrate it. Absolutely. Now, another question, Yetzenia, before we wrap up, I still have 2 or 3 more questions. What tips or suggestions would you give to the audience regarding advocacy? How do they access any of the agencies, or how can they become involved in any of the causes that they believe in? What are your suggestions?
I will say, becoming an advocate is essential. To be an advocate, you have to own the message. You have to believe in the message, and you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in your potential, and that comes, with time. Get cracking that shell, and you just sometimes you have to speak up in places where people don't want you to speak up. You have to know that you have a voice and you need to use it. And when it's time for you to speak with authority, speak with knowledge. But most importantly, advocacy is a lot about building relationships.
Like everything in life, absolutely.
Building relationships in the community. I say networking is really important. Getting to know who the movers and shakers are in your community. And then seeing what it is that you're doing that connects with their mission, and it's mutual. I say that's really important because, sometimes a person says, oh, no, I'm not going to be part of that because my business doesn't relate to that or this and that and a third, right? But no, it's helping those community leaders understand why they should care about the cost, how it benefits them, how is it going to impact the community at large. And I could use this, for instance, an example that I can give is private businesses and domestic violence. Let's use that. We know that domestic violence affect the workforce drastically because if you have survivor who's experiencing abuse, he is not going to go to work. They're going to have more absenteeism, right? They're not going to function, low productivity. The workplace in itself can be a danger zone because then the abuser can go to the workplace and it has happened in the past, a murder occurs and then employees also get hurt. So letting employers know, if you bring in DV education, if you put a policy in place to protect survivors, if you get involved in our cause and you raise awareness, not only are you giving back to your community, you're helping your employees to thrive, and you're helping your businesses financially because now they're not going to be late for work. That costs money. They're not going to miss work. That costs money. They're not going to leave their job. That costs money because then you have to retrain people. So it's letting people know what the cost is in a bigger.
It's about the bottom line, sure, for the corporations. It's about the bottom line, about what the cost is, and I agree with you. So your role is basically creating that awareness, not just for survivors, so that survivors take action with their own lives, but helping organizations and the community at large to be part of that healing process and of supporting the healing process. And that's wonderful. Now, give me a strategy that worked for you to be successful. And you've shared so many things already, but tell me something that has worked for you. What would that be?
Several things has worked for me. I'll say not just one. The number one thing is faith. You need to have faith. You need to have faith that everything happens, for it has its purpose. It has its time. The timing is perfect. The people that come into your life for a purpose as well. Building relationships and being a genuine person. Not being afraid to say, who it is that you are and connecting with people. I've been able to be successful in the field because of the connections that I've made, the relationship. I talked about our relationship at the beginning.
Yes.
We didn't know each other, but you took your time to talk to me. I took my time to share about myself to you, to open up, Of course, you always got to be careful who you open up with, but
absolutely.
How it's like there's a saying that says, how am I supposed to know if you don't tell me? If you're hungry, but you don't tell me, how am I supposed to know? I can ask you, but if you still don't tell me, you're not going to eat. So it's the same concept. It's like you have to connect with people. You have to speak up. And become comfortable in that setting. Don't leave faith behind. I always say this: a life without faith is a fearful one. And I'll say it again: a life without faith is a fearful one, because faith is going to keep you going. Prayer as well, in the moments that we feel the lowest, and the moments that they're most difficult, and hope, so, and surrounding yourself with positive people. I think that when my life started shifting is because I started surrounding myself with the people that had the mindset that I was aspiring to.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's really
that
important.
makes a difference. Absolutely. Now, mention anything important about the 5K. How can people sign up? I'll be posting information in the comments section, but if you want to mention briefly what it is that's expected of them to sign up.
Yeah, so sign up is very easy. They can visit our website at www.standupsurvivor.com. There they will see the registration. Click on it. You can register. You can register, family members. For $30, you will get your bib, your medal, and your shirt. You can also donate more. You can be a sponsor if you would like to sponsor the event. We have sponsor opportunities. So please reach out to me at Yetzzy, YETZY, at standupsurvivor.com. They can send me an email there. So we're here to help, and please let us know, how we can be of service. And I hope, Evelyn, that you will join the 5K as well.
I absolutely will. Absolutely. I don't run anymore. I used to, but I had an injury, but I'm still walking. I walk quite a few miles daily. And just before you and I got on, I wrote you, I was going for my walk. And so I try to make a point of it, of doing it daily, because it does help me clear my mind and reconnect with what's important and what the priorities are. It's a wonderful way. So I'm so glad you're using that. Now, I will bring this up, though. Maybe another event globally would be getting people to dance salsa.
That's always a possibility. I love dance, and I always connect dance with healing and mental health and exercise. And
Absolutely. So we're really coming to an end. We really have to wrap this up, and I'm so sad that we do, but I will bring you on again in the future to talk a lot more about all these wonderful, interesting topics and the causes that you are advocating for. Now, as number one, a young female and Hispanic leader, triple whammy right there. What are your final words of wisdom for the audience about leadership and/or advocacy?
I would say, definitely believe in yourself, believe in your potential. Todo se puede para aquel que cree, go for it. If you have a crazy idea that you say, oh my God, this is crazy, go for it. This global 5K at first part would have, it went crazy, but it seemed a little like, wow, global 5K, how is that going to happen? It's happening. It's happening. I voiced it. I said, let's do it. And people bought into it. The board was like, let's do it. We put up a flyer. We selected a date. We're mobilizing our community. There is nothing that is too big for you to be able to reach. So I say, believe in yourself, go for it, and believe in the authority that's within you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I'd like to thank you so much, Yetzenia Negron, president of Stand Up Survivor and community activist, a true extraordinary woman of guts and grace, a compassionate and courageous leader for sure. And I'm so proud of you and so happy that you're so successful and moving forward, and you're saving the world your way, one person at a time, one 5K at a time, one dance at a time, speaking up. And I know you do so much in the community, and the community's so lucky to have you rooting for them and supporting them. Thank you so much.
Gracias a ti, Evelyn. Gracias a todas las personas que están viendo esto. Que Dios los bendiga mucho y que tengan una linda tarde, un lindo día. Okay?
Thank you. And in English?
Thank you, Evelyn, and thank you to all the people who are watching this. I really wish you a beautiful day, and God bless you.
Thank you. We did a Spanglish show today. Let me give you some announcements before we sign off. Thank you again, Yetzenia. And our announcements for today, I continue to work on setting up the systems to facilitate the process to receive my services as a coach, a mentor, a speaker, or a trainer. And I will be launching soon the website finally this month. And I also wanted to share that by the end of this month, you'll be able to purchase my course, Emotional Reset, for entrepreneurs, professionals, philanthropic, and spiritual leaders. And as always, as I sign off, much self-love, much compassion with yourself, much benevolence too. You deserve it. I deserve it. Yetzenia deserves it. And we all deserve it. Please keep the peace. Thank you so much, Yetzenia. I love you. Thank you so much for taking time to be here today. It was wonderful, and I'm sure that so many people will be benefiting from what we've spoken here, and we've probably stirred up a few things and maybe triggered a few people. Hopefully they reach out to get help soon. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.